All right, hey everybody. So last week we learned about surface area and how to measure surface area. This week we're going to learn about something called volume. So if you remember for one of the examples last week, we had a fish tank, okay, and we wanted to measure how much glass was used in order to make the fish tank. So if surface area is like measuring the glass or the material on the outside, volume would be measuring, in this example, the amount of water the fish tank could hold. So again, surface area, the amount of material, volume, the amount of stuff that shape can hold or fit inside of it. Okay, so that's the difference between surface area and volume. All right, so let's look at how volume is measured. So we measure area or surface area in square units. Volume is measured in cubic units. Okay, it's measured in cubic units. So we measure it by seeing how many cubic units we could fit inside a space. Okay, so here you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cubic units that go the length of one side. Now I'm not done because I got to fill this whole thing up in order to find the volume of this shape. So I'm just going to keep going. So now I've got 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on. Okay, so now I've filled up one whole bottom portion of this cube. So you guys will notice this is 10 by 10, so it's 10 on this side, 10 on this side, okay, and then 1 up. So I've got 10 times 10 is 100 times 1 is 100 cubic units, or 100 cubes. But I'm still not done. I got to figure out how many cubes it's going to take to fill up this whole box. All right, so almost to the top here, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if I compact that down, that's going to be, so how many cubic units? What's the volume of this shape? So we've got, again, we already figured out this is 10. Figured out this is 10. And we just counted this is 10. So 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 is 1,000. So this shape holds 1,000 of these, 1,000 cubic units. And that's how volume is measured. With area, we would just do length times width. But with volume, we have another dimension. We have a third dimension. So we would do length, which is 1 dimension, times width, 2 dimensions, times height, 3 dimensions. So, and that's how we're going to write our answer when we are saying the amount of volume. We would write it 10 10 units times 10 units times 10 units. And since we're multiplying 3 dimensions, we're going to write our answer as 1,000 units cubed. Not squared. Squared is two-dimensional area. This is three-dimensional, so we're going to write it as units cubed. All right, so let's look at a couple of examples. So let's look at this example here. We've got a shape, and this is similar to some of the shapes that we saw last week when we were measuring surface area. So if we were measuring surface area, if you recall from last week, we would take one of these panels. So we would take this one, for instance, and we would measure that panel. So that would be 5 times 10, that'd be 50. Then we do the back one and so on. Okay? But here we're not measuring the surface area. We're not measuring the outside surface. Instead, we're measuring the amount of stuff inside. So the amount of water that this shape could hold, or the amount of something else that it could hold. So again, the way we do that, well, how many dimensions does this shape have? It's got 1, 2, 3 dimensions. So we're just going to multiply those 3 dimensions, just like we did with the cube a few minutes ago. So this is 5, so we're going to go 5 centimeters. This is 7 times 7, so we could call this our length and our width. And then we're going to multiply that answer by our height. So our height, which is 10. So 5 times 7 is 35, times 10 is 350, and that's going to be centimeters cubed. Not squared, cubed, because again, we're measuring 3 dimensions. Okay, let's look at another example. Let's look at let's look at this aquarium. So we've got let's look at this cushion here. So we've got, all right, so let's look at this vase. So we've got a vase and it's holding flowers, and we want to know what the volume of the vase is. So if we were to fill the water all the way up to the top, how much water potentially could that hold? You can see the water lines right here, but if it went all the way up to the top, how much would it hold? So we've got our measurements here. We could call this our length. We could call this our width. We could call this our height. So this length measures 9 centimeters. The width measures 9 centimeters. And the height measures 16 centimeters. So again, all we're going to do is we're going to multiply those together. So 9 times 9 times 16. So 9 times 9 is 81 times 16. That's going to be 1,296. And that's centimeters cubed. Cubed again because we're multiplying 3 dimensions. Notice how this is important. Notice how all of these, the length, width, and height, they meet together at a point. So the video tomorrow, we're going to learn how to identify what's the length and what's the width and what's the height. Right now it's easy because those are the only measurements that are given. But one of the ways you can tell is the length, width, and height will always meet together at a certain point. Hope this makes sense. Please let me know if you have any questions. We're going to just do one more example here. Okay, let's look at this cushion. So if we were measuring surface area, we'd be trying to find the amount of green fabric, but we're not measuring surface area. We are measuring volume. So we want to figure out the amount of stuffing inside that cushion that that green fabric will hold. So let's look at, again, we're going to look at our length. So we could call this 12, we could call that our length. This 19, we could call that our width, and then the 2 we'll call our height. So we're going to do 2 times 12 times 19. So 2 times 12 is 24, and then we have 24 times 19, and that equals 456 what? 456 inches cubed. So if you'll notice, if we go back to our example of the cubes that we were using earlier, so these were cubic centimeters. Cubic inches would be 1 inch on all sides. So instead of being 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, it would be 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch. Hope that makes sense. Please let me know if you have any questions, and we'll talk to you soon.